Welcome everyone, my name is Tarek Johnson, and the purpose of this video is to explain 3 different things. And after you watch this video, you're gonna have a clear picture of what it's like owning a franchise, and you get to hear it directly from a franchise owner himself. So after watching this video, you're gonna have a clearer picture of 1, what does it even mean to own a franchise? 2, what is it like to own a franchise? And then does it make sense for you to own a franchise? So my name is Tarek Johnson, and I've built a 7-figure franchise business with 2 different locations that were 2,400 miles apart. And my first location that I opened was built from scratch. The second one I bought as an existing location from someone who owned the store previously. Make sure you watch this video to the end because I'm going to share something with you that you're not going to want to miss. So let's get into it. So number 1 is, what does it mean to own a franchise? So before you can understand what it means to own a franchise, it's important for you to understand 2 different terms. Number 1 is franchisor. Number 2 is franchisee. So a franchisor is basically corporate. Franchisor is the one who owns the intellectual property, and they're the ones that issue and grant the licenses for franchise owners. So as an example, Dunkin' Donuts, the corporate would be considered the franchisor. A franchisee is the individual who signs an agreement with the franchisor. So that's the person that owns the franchise. So going with the Dunkin' Donuts example, if someone owns a Dunkin' Donuts, they are the franchisee and they have a relationship with Dunkin' Donuts, who is the franchisor. So it's very important that you understand those terms, especially if you're looking to own a franchise, because those are terms that you're gonna hear come up constantly. So make sure you cement that in your head. Franchisor is corporate, franchisee is the individual. That's as simple as it gets. So when you're buying a franchise, you are really buying the rights to own and operate a business under that license. You're buying the intellectual property, the trademarks, the way that they operate the business, the different vendor relationships that they have for the business as well. So that's really what it means to own a franchise and what it is that you're buying. And a good example of this is sports teams. You hear in the NBA and the NFL, you hear about people talking about what they want to do for the franchise. So as an example, if it's the Orlando Magic, you might hear someone, I say Orlando Magic because I'm in Orlando, not that I'm an Orlando Magic fan, but you hear people talk about, well, the franchise is performing this way, so on and so forth. So even when you buy professional sports teams, it's still a franchise because you are buying the rights to operate a business, and you were granted that license by the NFL, the NBA, so on and so forth, right? So that is still a franchise in that sense. You're buying the rights to own and operate that business and that intellectual property. So a big question people ask is, why would you own a franchise as opposed to doing your own thing, right? Like, why would you give up some of your sales and have more rules than instead of just open your own business? Well, there's a few different reasons why, and I'll tell you a quick story. An example of why my wife and I decided to go with the franchise model as opposed to doing our own thing. So when we decided to open our first franchise location, at the time we were living in California, hence why I told you in the beginning of the video that I had a location that was 2,400 miles away. We decided that we were going to open a juice bar. And after deciding that we wanted to open a juice bar, we started doing research at the different brands that were in that space. And at some point in the conversation, my wife said, why don't we just do our own thing? Like, why don't we just start our own business from scratch? Like, these guys are gonna take about 10% of our sales. Why would we want to give that up? And I remember very clearly, we had gone for what's called Discovery Day. You'll learn what Discovery Day is. Discovery Day is basically when you go to the franchisor corporate and you meet with the different executives or high-level people in the company, and it's an opportunity for them to get to know you and and for you to get to know them and basically see if it's a right fit initially. So we had some of the literature and different marketing collateral from Discovery Day, and I pulled the menu that we had gotten for this particular brand, and I showed it to my wife. I said, how long do you think it would take for us to create this menu? Not only how long, but how much money do you think we would have to pay different vendors to come up with it? And in just looking at the menu, I mean, it was beautifully done. We'd have to, one, come up with the menu. So this particular menu had at least 30 different products on it, between juices and smoothies and acai bowls. So we would have to either, one, pay someone to come up with the products, the names, the ingredients, make sure the flavor profiles match up. Then we would have to find a graphic designer to create the design for the menu. I mean, it's just a long process. In my mind, that would have taken 6 months to come up with all the different products, to figure out all the different ingredients. So that's one of the reasons why we decided to open up a franchise, is because when you buy franchise, you are buying a system. There is already a proven system, unless you're buying a brand new franchise and you're the first franchisee to buy that franchise, but you're buying a system that has already worked. They already know how to operate the business. They already have the vendor relationships. They already have the products. They already have the marketing systems. So you're really buying that benefit of buying a business that has been proven. Now, going the franchise way, it wound up helping us a lot, because knowing myself and my personality, I tend to overthink things a little bit. So if I had to make all those little intricate decisions about creating products and menus and selecting vendors and going through approval processes, quite honestly, I don't think I would have ever wind up following through. And putting that $25,000 deposit to buy the rights to operate the franchise location, it made us committed that, okay, now we got to get going. Now we got to sign a lease. Now we got to take all the next steps. So that's huge in business, and owning a franchise is that when you sign that dotted line with the franchisor, you're committing yourself. You're putting your butt on the line, whereas if the barrier to entry is a little bit lower and you're just paying $1,000 to kind of start figuring things out, you might quit because your risk of loss really isn't that high. So in this case, operating under the franchise really helped to commit to the process of opening the business and really being held accountable for moving forward. And it wound up working out really great, because our second month in business, we wind up being profitable, doing over $30,000 in sales. Our second month open, which was an amazing blessing. It was so exciting. We were incredibly nervous about if it was going to work out. That was our first time doing something like that, opening up a physical location, an 8-week build out with a general contractor. I mean, it was just intense. And I actually documented and packaged exactly what I did step by step to get that location profitable in our second month in business. If you go over to my website, TarekJohnson.com, you can go ahead and grab it for free. It's called my 7-Step Blueprint to Business Profits in 60 Days. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be posting a lot of videos about how you can get started in the franchise space, all of the past mistakes and even successes that I've had as a franchise owner, and it's going to be really valuable. So make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you can stay in the loop with all of the videos that I post. Also, it really helps the channel if you hit the like button and just leave me a comment to tell me what your thoughts are, questions, feedback, anything like that. It helps to make sure that people keep seeing this video so they can get the valuable information. What is it like to own a franchise? Well, I'll speak from my experience directly. Number one is that you have a lot of support. So throughout the franchise process, from the day that we signed that franchise agreement, we had a ton of support from the franchisor, which I call corporate. So corporate helped us step by step along the way. So after we signed our franchise agreement, Then we started the process of site selection. So in our case, we had a location picked out that we were adamant about, that we really wanted to be in that location. It was about 10 minutes from our house. And having gone through that process and now looking back 3 years from now, I would actually recommend to not do that. To not try to pick out the location before you pick out the brand, because there could be a better location in mind. There might be more opportunity somewhere else. Take a look at that location that you're considering, do your due diligence, do your research, go through the normal standard process that corporate has you do, but make sure you're comparing it with a few different locations so that you can make sure that you're making the right decision and not just being stubborn because you see a location, it's close to your house, you think it's going to be great, but it turns out the actual data that you have to do and the numbers and what would actually make that location successful, turns out that it may not be the most successful location. But going back to what that process was like, so corporate helped us step by step along the way in figuring out what was going to be the best location, and they had a set process and set criteria, so we were able to look at all the criteria that they gave us. They helped us run reports on all of the demographics and people in the area and different mile radiuses and how much daytime population is there, meaning people that are working in the area, how much residential population is there. So it's a really thorough process to make sure that you're choosing the right location. And you're choosing the location that has the highest possibility of success. After we chose that location and we signed our lease, corporate was involved in that lease process, and they actually referred us the attorney that we used to negotiate the lease, which wind up saving us $30,000 because of the attorney and a clause that they put in that wind up making a huge difference. So make sure that you hire professionals throughout the process if you plan on owning a franchise, or if you plan on going your own direction. Don't shortcut it. If you get a quote for an attorney for $3,000 or $5,000, in order to review your lease and negotiate it and look at the fine print, do it. Because that $3,000 to $5,000 could wind up saving you $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 down the road. Again, I speak from experience on this. At first, I didn't want to hire the attorney because my wife and I had already pretty much negotiated the main terms of the lease. We negotiated the price per square foot. We negotiated the amount of free rent that we were going to get. So we felt like, what kind of value is the attorney going to provide for us? Well, we followed the franchisor's advice. They said, hey, we really, really strongly recommend that you still hire this attorney to help you negotiate the lease. We did, and again, wind up saving us $30,000. So corporate helped us find the site selection, they helped us find the location to help negotiate the lease, and then they helped us find the general contractor that we wind up using. Now, to make sure that they weren't being biased, they recommended that we get at least 3 different bids from contractors. Actually, they required that we get 3 different bids from different contractors. And then during that 8-week process that we were having our store built out, which was a significant project, cost a couple $100,000 in order to do it, I was on weekly calls with the head of construction, my local operations regional support person with corporate, as well as my general contractor. So every Friday we were on a conference call saying, hey, where are we? Where are we in the process? And making sure that things were going according to the timeline that we had set out. And this part was really important to get support for, because I don't have a construction background. There was terminology and things that I wasn't aware of. And so having someone from corporate who had been involved in the build out of many, many stores, having them as an advocate to help hold the general contractor accountable and make sure that things were going according to plan was really priceless. I mean, there's so many different ways that that could have gone, and having that support was tremendous. You know, they say with franchises that you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And certainly my experience of that was definitely true. Now, it's important to understand that not all franchisors are great. I mean, you could read story after story out there online and probably hear a lot of feedback from franchisees that have had terrible experiences with corporate where they didn't provide help and support. And that's why making sure that you do the proper research and you ask franchisors the right questions is very, very important. So it's important to work with a professional. If you're looking to get into franchising or buy a franchise, or you have questions, make sure you go over to my website and send me a message on there. Tell me what franchises that you're interested in and kind of where you're at along the process, and I'm happy to help and offer my support. You can also just drop a comment down below, ask me the questions that you have, and I do my best to answer all of the questions. So the other part about owning a franchise, and I talked about this before, is the fees that franchisors charge. Franchisors are in business to make money. The way that franchisors make money are generally three different ways. Now, and that can vary, but number one is the initial franchise fee that you pay to buy the rights to operate a franchise location. A lot of people get confused with this. They see something online that says, I can own a Dunkin' Donuts for only $35,000. I don't know if that's their specific franchise fee, but that $35,000 fee is just the fee that you're paying to buy the rights to operate the location. Once you pay that $35,000 fee, then there are all the other fees to actually get it built out. You got to pay your instruction cost and to hire an architect and permitting and staffing and all those different things that you have to pay. So it's important to note that that's not the only fee that you pay. So in my case, we paid a $25,000 franchise fee, and that was just the initial fee for us to sign the paperwork and get our foot in the door. And then franchisors will start to help you start the site selection process. So that's the first way that franchisors typically make money. The second way that franchisors typically make money is by the royalties and marketing fees that they charge. So typically royalty fees can range from 5% to 10%. The marketing fees can range from 1% to 3%. So oftentimes all in, the total royalties and fees that you're paying off of your total sales can range somewhere between 6 and 15% depending upon the franchisor. And so some people, after a while, they get sick of paying those fees to the franchisor, but it's important to understand that you're using someone's system, and so you're paying a fee to operate that system. It's like if you go into a business and see that someone has created Disney products and they're not associated to Disney, well, they're paying a licensing fee so that they can put Disney's logos and characters on these products. And so it's basically the same thing with the franchise. You're paying those licensing royalty fees, again, to operate the business. The last part about what it's like to own a franchise is that you have to follow the rules. Now, generally speaking, I'm pretty good at following the rules, so that was never an issue with my franchises, but you can wind up getting fined from the franchisor if you don't follow the rules. So that's something that's important to keep in mind when you're looking at owning a franchise. If you decide that you want to start doing your own thing and creating your own products and not following the rules, well, you can get fined and you can get sued. Fortunately, the franchisor that we've had our locations with, they're really friendly, and even franchisees that I've heard about that weren't following the rules, that it generally didn't ever get that far. So just something that's important to keep in mind. If you don't like following the rules and you're adamant about doing your own thing, and really having your own ideas, then maybe a franchise is not for you. So the last thing, number 3, is does it make sense for you to own your own franchise? Well, the answer to that question really depends. What I would recommend is go ahead and reach out to me and tell me about your situation. I'd love to hear about what you do now, what your thoughts are about what industry that you want to go into. But it's important to really understand your current situation in order to figure out if a franchise is for you. You got to understand your personality traits, how that can potentially align with the right type of business. It's important to understand your financial situation. Franchises generally can take a lot of money to open. Our location that we opened out in California was around $300,000 to get opened. Now there are low-cost franchises that you can invest in. Some franchises you can open for as little as $10,000. Oftentimes that's probably going to be a franchise that you're operating out of your house. That could be something like selling vacations or cruises, or being a consultant for something where you're really just buying the initial rights, and then you got to go out there and really do everything and go out there and really find the customers. But the most important part in figuring out if it makes sense for you to own a franchise is, what are you looking to accomplish and why? Like, are you looking to do something on the side where you can replace your income? Are you getting ready to retire and you're looking to supplement your income? Are you looking to replace your income completely? It's important to define that and understand what you're looking to accomplish, why you're looking to accomplish it. And once you have that and you have a clear vision of what it is you're trying to accomplish and why, that will help to drive all of those other decisions that you make during the franchise process. Again, feel free to reach out to me, leave me a comment, head over to my website, make sure to grab that 7-step blueprint to business profits in 60 days, and make sure to check out my other videos because I think you're gonna like it. I will see you guys in the next one, and take care.